asking, what should our belief be towards the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Like, for instance, His hand, face, and throne. There are some very interesting verses which, if every Muslim were to understand them perfectly, then we would not have any problem with regards to the concept of Tawheed at all. Would not have any differences. People will not deviate. But it's a fact that there will be people who will be deviant simply because of the misinterpretation of the nusus. But the nusus are very clear. If we're talking about the attributes and the traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which are the most perfect, because He is the most perfect, then we need to reflect on ayah number 11 of Surah Ash-Shura. And this is a cornerstone reference in this chapter. In this respect, the ayah says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. There is nothing like Him, and He is the all-hearer, the all-seer. The last verse of Surah Al-Ikhlas, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And no one is ever equivalent nor comparable to Him. Ayah number 27, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Which means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His is the best example. His is the best and the highest description in the heavens and the earth. So His descriptions, we cannot describe any of His creation with. Nor can we describe Him with any of the traits of His creations. It's not possible. They do not meet. The creation, the creatures are full of shortcomings and defects. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has the most perfect description. So we need to keep in mind that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described Himself by any trait or attribute, then we must believe in it as is, as it was mentioned in the Quran, without tahrif, which is distortion of the meaning, ta'til, which is negating the meaning, or takyif, which means assigning a manner to the attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or tamthil, which is drawing a parallel or an example to that. For instance, distortion. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that إِنَّنِي مَعَكُمَا أَسْمَعُ وَأَرَى, this is what He said to Prophet Musa alayhi salam and Harun. Go to the Pharaoh, don't worry about it, I'll be with you. I hear and I see. إِنَّنِي مَعَكُمَا, it means that I will be with you. When some people try to interpret this in a different way than the way it appears, this is how they distort the meaning. The Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq while they were in the cave, مَا ظَنُّكَ بِاثْنَيْنِ اللَّهُ ثَالِثُهُمَا, negating the meaning. There is a whole sect that deviated from Islam simply because they said, no, we cannot describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the traits which are similar to the creations. If the creations do have hands, feet, shins, and fingers, and they can sit, they can stand up, they can hear, we cannot describe Allah with any of that, or otherwise will fall in tashbih, which is drawn parallel. So they skip from one extreme to the other extreme, and they miss the point. On the other hand, the other extreme is drawing a parallel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Take for instance, you mentioned the throne. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Taha, verse number 5, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa. The most gracious, the most beneficent, istawa ala al-arsh, rose above the throne. Did the ayah explain how did He rise above His throne? No, it does not. Did the Prophet ﷺ explain that? Did any of his companions explain that? Okay, because al-istiwa is known, normally if we're speaking in Arabic, we say istawa is known, but in order to give takyif, give examples, or resembling, how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rose above His throne? That's not allowed. That's why when Al-Imam Malik, may Allah have mercy on him, was asked about al-istiwa, he said, yes, al-istiwa'u ma'loom, wal-kayfu majhul, wal-su'alu anhu bid'ah, وَالْخَوْضُ فِيهِ ضَلَالًا. Al-istiwa is known, its meaning is known. But al-kayf, how? How did Allah rose above His throne and above the heavens? It is not known because He did not explain it. And it is beyond our intelligence, beyond our experience and knowledge to figure out, because we have limited access. Anything about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His names and attributes to us is unseen, except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals it to His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can be divided into two categories with regards to whether we can reason them or figure them on our own, or we are in need for a text or a reference. There are some attributes which there is no way that we can know whether they're there or how are they there unless if there is a reference. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ. Everything will perish except His face. Right? وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. These are at least two verses of talking about the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the ayat affirm to Allah one of the traits which He ascribed to Himself, that He has a face. How does His face look like? How big? Any other description, we should pause because we have not been informed. And there is no way that we can figure this out on our own because it's entirely unseen to us. The hands likewise. يَدُ اللَّهِ فَوْقَ أَيْدِيهِمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand is above their hand. Somebody might fall into the error of misinterpreting that by saying that the hand refers to the power. Show me a reference. How do you know that the word hand refers to the power? The word yad in Arabic means hand. So I should affirm to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has a hand. And in other ahadith, He has fingers. Fine, we affirm to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what He affirmed to Himself without distortion, without negation, without resembling or drawing parallel, without assigning an example to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to any of His creations. We say that He has this like that. This is where Christians went astray, by assigning some of the traits of Allah to humans, and by giving humans some of the traits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so they ended up falling into the worship of humans. There is no big difference between worshiping a human or worshiping an idol. In Hindus and Buddhists worship idols, and due to their love of the pictorial images, they created their idols and gods in the forms or images of Asian men whom they can resort to. So by the end, that they gave the traits of the Creator to the creation. This is how they went astray. By going astray or disbelieving or not understanding perfectly the concept of belief in Allah's beautiful names and attributes, people become non-believers. We have to be very careful with that. Thank you for this very important question.